Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of y'all, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all what this means. Cheyenne's interview of Cam Newton is something I did not even have to sit and watch in its entirety to understand. Her interview of Nick Cannon, I did not have to watch more than 3 minutes of to understand. I have not seen the full interview. And I don't want to take credit away from Cheyenne that she rightly deserves. But I don't know what credit that might be. However, that was a look into the typical mindset of the typical African American woman, the typical New World Anglophone black woman towards black men in general. And that was, okay, I'm not married, and I'm allowed to make all kind of dumbass excuses I would never take off of a man. But why the hell aren't you? He has something to lose. And in comparison to him, I take that back. I said the wrong word. In contrast to Cam, Cheyenne Bryant has nothing to lose. If you try to set her up next to him and say, well, how much could she lose? How much could he lose in a marriage? Guess what? What she can lose is nothing. Buon pomeriggio, signore. So, here she is questioning him. And when he nicely flipped it back on her, she got to make up some ignorant ass mumbo jumbo about healing. I'm healing. My healing journey. She grew up with her dad. Apparently, he's the one that raised her. I did say at some point that when you have a daughter in this culture, if a mother does not mess her up, the other women will, because the negativity is what is going to win out amongst our people. They don't generally take a positive message and use that to stand up to negative pressure. It is actually quite the reverse. They take that negative message from some of their people and use that to follow, because they're not willing to have some strength and stand up and push back and say, no, I'm not doing the sugar net. No, I'm not going this route. And they don't do that. You can't really do much to save. You can't do anything at all to save our people in a situation like that. We are not salvageable anymore. Not in the New World Anglosphere. And increasingly so in the home continent, we are not salvageable. That's not all. Today, a student who's mildly retarded. Yeah, I know, right? Mildly retarded. He came into the classroom and he was talking to my students as I was getting some attendance things ready. And this student turned around and said to me that he was in HR. And he said that he was studying for that. That was his major, but there was something else going on. And that is that this HR was, that it was largely populated by women already. I had a conversation with the students before about how their stubbornness was getting in the way of them learning English and correcting it. But my students needed to know what it meant when I found out from this other student that's not one of my students. He was just speaking to them about HR. I had to tell them what that meant. Now, they told me he was mildly retarded. I didn't pick up on that. But I said to them, listen, if your sisters are beginning to get these ideas of Nasawiya, which is the local word for feminism, through Snapchat and Instagram and all these other platforms. And then they're also going into HR, and they're already becoming the majority of HR. Do you not understand what this is going to mean for you? And I just straight told my students, class was over, so I was allowed to talk about this at that point. I straight said to the students, this is what's going to happen. Your family structure now is under attack at this point. And I don't think you all understand it. So therefore, you're going to be easier targets. But your family structure is under attack. They already won against the black family in the United States, Canada, and the UK. And I had to say to them, in most of the New World English-speaking nations, and increasingly so even in Brazil, the black family is already done for. We got about another generation before we disappear. Because we're not marrying each other anymore. It's over. And I told them, it's not all. I said to them, the white family structure is under attack. It is done for too. But the difference is that white family structure, well, it's going to take them longer to disappear because their population is bigger inside the United States and Canada. They may wind up salvaging their family structure before they vanish and disappear, but it's too late for us because they convinced our women to never, ever be good wives to us. Don't ever be a wife with whom a husband can stay. And I said to them, the ones that tried to succeeded in convincing them of this. And I told them, do you know that black women's major careers are retail, HR, and government bureaucracies? I told them that's where you find a lot of us. And I said to them that when you go for jobs in the States, the black women that run HR understand they're doing that job for white men, and they know what kind of black men these white men don't want in there. And those are the ones that act the most like men. So the less of a man that black man acts like at all, the higher his chances of getting the job if he has the other credentials and qualifications. And that when we were facing job discrimination for decades, we did not realize that most of the job discrimination we were facing, and I wouldn't say most, but about half, too big of a portion that we were facing was not being upheld by white folk. It was being upheld by sisters in HR. There was what white folks, men and women alike, were doing, and then there was the extra help they were getting from sisters in HR, which is why most of us individually did not understand who was discriminating against us. Well, I'm being interviewed, but it's black women interviewing. How come I can't get no job? I must really not be about nothing. Meanwhile, you take a black man that doesn't seem to like women at all, and they manage to move up, and studies have shown this. I had to tell my students, man, this is what the cuss word is going on. I have to focus now on the spread of Nasawiya, and which is feminism, and MIsandry, for which I don't know an Arabic word. But I've got to focus on the spread of these things, not just here, because it's where I live. I got to focus on this globally, period, because as I have told many of you before, you don't just leave when you can leave. You go and you network with the men in these places, and you tell them what is coming down the pike. And I told my students, you don't need to go telling anybody what I said, that I said it. You can tell them what I told you, but you don't tell them I'm the one who told you until the semester is over. If they ask when, you say when the semester finished. We had this talk one day at a restaurant, something like that. So, you cover up that we had this conversation on campus, even though class is over. But you must understand that your family structure is under attack, and they know they can't convince you to run away from and leave the women alone. The women have to drive you away. You're not going to do things that make yourselves unattractive. You're up here studying, trying to get the money so that you can be attractive to these ladies, and their fathers don't mind you marrying them. You're not willing to do something that would make you ugly to the women financially or physically ugly. I get that. Well, guess what the F is going to happen? Guess what the F is going to be the case? They can get these women to act in ways that are going to drive you away, and that's going to be how they stop the marriage. Now, these guys can understand women pushing men away because what they know about feminism is that you can take women that aren't even lesbians and you can turn them against men. That's what they understand. This thing is spreading. And I'm glad that those of us who do leave are leaving. I'm glad that those of us who can leave are leaving. That is a good thing. But we are not doing enough to let the men where we live know what the work is coming down the pike. Now, it may be a hard thing to explain, especially if you have to explain it through a language barrier, but this is something that is you need to be a source of information about where this thing leads. They will know what to do if they simply know what the work it's going to do unchecked later on. If they know what's coming down the pike, they'll know how to check it. We don't even have to tell them what to do for the most part, unless they ask you. All you got to do is tell them what the work is coming down that pike and how. That's it. All you have to do is inform them. They will ask what they want to know, and then you might be able to tell them things you otherwise would have been out of place for volunteering. But you do that, and you're going to be all right. You do that, and you're going to be good. And they're going to be good, and we will have places to which we can move and live, and these places will stay places in which our sons will also be able to have their families, and even in which our daughters will not be taught to ruin their families. Some of us are going to migrate, find someone, marry them. Some of you are going to have sons. Some of you are going to have daughters. Many of you are going to have some of both. Do you want a situation in which you found someone, y'all were able to stay together, but then around the time that your children are grown and they're old enough to find someone for themselves, your sons can't find nobody and your daughters can't appreciate nobody? They can't appreciate the good men they can find or that find them. And your sons can't find anyone that would appreciate the good in them. Is that what you're looking for? Because I'm telling you, gentlemen, that these misandrists and feminists are working to terraform traditional countries and environments. They are not, when I told you they're not effing around, I meant it. They are not playing. These single, bitter, lonely broads, and even some that are married, happily or not, don't want you to find any alternative but to deal with them or stay by yourself unnaturally. They don't want you to have another option, and they are erasing the other option by going straight to the software of these traditional women. Some places will resist and some places will not. But you have to start seeing this as a type of conflict, and you are going to reward women that don't participate in the conflict against you. And you are going to tell the men in places that are still salvageable how to prevent their places from becoming unsalvageable, how to prevent their families from becoming unsalvageable, how to prevent their daughters from always needing to stay under their roofs until the dads die, because you know what? They never found anybody. You already got a problem here. A lot of these fathers here have these dowry requirements for their daughters. The daughters may or may not have them, but the dads are like, you need to have a whole lot of money. And they will spoil their daughters. I've told y'all about that. They will spoil their daughters. So their daughters won't appreciate men that don't have money anyway, even if the dowry requirements aren't high. And that's how they are. And that's it. And there's nothing else. And so they will look at their sons who can't get married because every other father's the same way. And none of them wants to be the first to say, I'm not going to financially burden the men that want to become my sons-in-law My daughter might do that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave that between them. I'm just going to check his character and his religion and what kind of husband he's going to be. No dad wants to be the first one because there is a sense of dishonor in it not being difficult to marry your daughter. To them, it not being difficult to marry your daughter, especially when she's young, is the same thing as it being not difficult to fornicate with her. They perceive that same sense of dishonor with the two of them, even though marriage and fornication are not the same by definition. They're going through that here. They're part of the problem. But even they are not on this feminism, this nasa. Even they don't like it if they found out their daughters were feminists and thought that men were scum or whatever. They would set their daughters straight if they found out. If the sons found out, the sons would set their sister straight and then tell dad, set your daughter straight, set my sister straight. We don't do this over here. I record this message multiple times. I do this for a reason. And I should have put this on Buy Me a Coffee, but you all need to hear this even if you're not paying. This is a message that needs to spread because this message is more important than the messenger. You've heard me say this before, but you know it's true. It's more important than the messenger. Get your country behinds out there when you do leave. If you don't even leave yet, but you got friends from other places or in other places because the world is small now, electronically speaking, it has been downsized. You let these men know for the what it is coming down the pike. Everybody's not our enemy. We're not going to help the Palestinians nor the Israelis, especially the Israelis, because they're the oppressors. And most of us are not willing to help the Palestinians that much anymore because we don't get the same thing back. And to be honest, I don't think Palestine can do much on our behalf. But what many of us perceive is that if they could, they would not, because they keep on forgetting in their bid for white acceptance. Okay, I get that. But one thing you can work with them on is when you tell them that feminism is making its way into their people. That in their struggle for freedom from oppression, other groups are going to come in and try to put in intersectionality in good and bad ways. And feminism is going to be brought in under that cloak. And so before you know it, the women are going to say, we're against Zionism and the patriarchy. No, that patriarchy works. That's one instance in which we would be able to work with them. I'm not even saying for y'all that are not Muslim to go looking for Palestinian women unless you're looking for Palestinian Christian women. If you're not Muslim, they're Palestinian Christians, and it's cool. But what I'm getting at is that if you could work with them, because that's actually something in which they would be willing to work with you. They don't want their family structure destroyed. Guess what? I stand with you on that. And let's say even if I'm wrong about it, okay, if I was wrong about it, if you have men like that are not really your racial allies per se, understand that there are some men out there that are racially neutral about us, or even they lean towards us. Like I've stated, men in Southeast Asia, if they know you, they're more likely to lean towards you. The Malaysian man, the Thai man, the Lao man, the Cambodian man, the Indonesian man, if they know that this is what you're trying to do, they're willing to work with you because you're helping them to stop something that will break their family structure up in their environments. And they don't have a problem with you as a black man. They'd be willing to work with you. Do you see where this is going? So even if you think that the first group I mentioned, the Palestinians, are just going to call you Abd and the N-word and then dismiss you, even if you think that's the case, okay, guess what? I'm using them as an example. If you think that's the case, what about the ones who wouldn't? Don't you think those men deserve? Because that benefits them and us. Don't you think those men deserve to know for the workers coming down the pike so that they can shield their daughters and sisters and aunts and cousins and even mothers from this stuff? Don't you think? Because those are men whose patriarchies are default. They are not mean. They're not misogynist to their women. They don't hate their women. They don't look down on them. They're just the ones in charge because they're the guys, and the responsibility falls on them. And okay, all right, they do that. And, they can still respect their women, but you ain't going to walk over them. And because these are men that are generally very nice, culturally speaking, they deserve this stuff less. But a lot of us don't focus on that enough. We should focus on many things: getting out, family, finding the right one. Yeah. But part of finding the right one a generation from now is going to focus on us letting our male in-laws know for the work is coming down that pike so that they don't make the mistake of sleeping on it. Are you going to help them? This is a situation in which we have a potential to actually be a better ally than what we have been. And I'm only talking about being allies to allies, not to non-allies. But this is a situation, and I'm not even saying this because I look for allies. I'm saying this because it clearly is a win-win situation. If we do this, it's a win-win situation. These men will be in a position to where they would know that they owe black men for saving the family structure. They would say it was these men that came along and helped us save our own family structure. It works out for us too. Our sons living there can find someone that can appreciate the good in them, and our daughters living there have a higher chance of being able to appreciate the good in a man, the good in a good man. That's possible. Can you do that? Easily you can. You already saw what it was with Cheyenne. And Cheyenne was typical. Except for the fact that her dad raised her alone. Other than that, she is typical. So the way in which she was atypical gave her an advantage. And you look at the double standards that are going through her head, that are embedded in there. She's not even thinking about them. And she got the nerve to sit up there because she's not aware she's got them. She takes them for granted. And if she did become aware of them, she still wouldn't feel a guck. She got the nerve to sit there and question him about why they're in the same position for the most part, except that he got more kids than she do. Well, if she has any at all, I don't know. But he got 8 with 3 different women. Now, fornication is not okay. But if he were to marry according to his spiritual tradition, according to what it is that he believes, and he did not marry in front of the state, he would just be a polygynous husband. That would be it. If he ain't Muslim and he did it according to his own religion, we Muslims would say that's just a polygynous husband right there. According to his own religion, he's polygynous. But he's a husband. That's not fornication. That's what we would have said. And he can afford to take care of them. The only reason we see him as a fornicator is because he himself has said that according to no definition of marriage by any faith tradition is he married. But he doesn't even have anything against fornication as far as we know. We don't see him as a hypocrite. A fornicator, yeah, but we Muslims don't see him as a hypocrite per se. He's a fornicator. As far as he knows, that makes him normal in the society. And he has proven this, the way that he has been selected by these women has proven that the African-American woman is already more polygynous than any black man or any man is. They've already proven that they are some of the staunchest about going after the same few men. Nobody is stauncher than the African-American woman, and I said it that way intentionally. The African woman is not as polygynous as the African-American woman. You got women in Africa that appreciate their husbands, and he ain't got no other wives. Now, it depends on which part of Africa. And some of them can be pretty messy about that too. Oh, don't nobody else want him? Well, I don't want it. That can exist there too. But especially in big cities, they'll openly say stuff like that, depending on which city. But I'm telling you that if you want to be monogamously married, you got a better shot than marrying a woman from the continent and her not disrespect you. You marry that sister from the New World Anglosphere, and she gonna disrespect you if she don't have competition. Hands down, guaranteed. Ask me how I know. Ask any of us how we know that. I'm telling the truth. You've experienced it. You can't win for losing. But they want to question Nick and question Cam. For what? These guys can afford that. And according to these women's own faith traditions, these guys aren't sinning per se. Or at least it's not a sin because it's fornication. What the hell are they really complaining about? Even these men with their money and their alphaness, as far as these women understand who's alpha and who's not. These are black men, and therefore they don't deserve what these ladies see as a privilege of digging out different women, especially different, attractive, well-built women. As far as they're concerned, these men are still black, so even with their money, they don't deserve to have sexual choice and options. Don't deserve it. And I'm telling you that what's happening now is that they're facing this from black women because they're black men. That's what they're facing. What you need to understand is that the feminists and the misandrists are going to spread this sort of way of thinking around so that eventually it'll be women that see men this way, period, in general. So you won't have anywhere to go to where you can find someone, or if you do, it doesn't happen before you're too old. Okay, so you can go and you can find them one last generation, but your sons can't. And your daughters cannot be shielded from becoming feminist and misandrist. That's what their goal is, and they're moving towards it. That's why you see them in Colombia. That's why you see them in Thailand. You see them, you're going to start seeing them in the Philippines if you haven't. That's why, you know what, this already started. Why are you seeing them in Indonesia? Most brothers ain't even going to Indonesia looking for nobody, but you got sisters going over there. Foot the walk forward. What you think they're going there for? And the ones there are many that don't even go there. They just go online to do this stuff. What the hell do you think it is that they want to do when they're not there on business? Or if they're there on business and then the business is finished and they stay a few extra days, what the walk you think they're there for? They don't want you to find anybody. They want to make sure you don't have any options. They want to turn the world into the same open air prison that they managed to turn the community into. Before they even try to export it to white America, they want to turn around and export it abroad because most of us would rather hop a flight and get somebody with some melanin in her, some kind of melanin, not a white woman, than we would to go just to the nearest big city in the States and get a white woman, because most of us know they trouble too. We know that. And sisters know that. That's why they're not busy trying to tell these white women, leave these brothers alone. They're over there trying to tell the Colombian mestiza and the Afro-Colombiana, leave them alone. They ain't no good. They just N-words. Trying to tell the brasileiras, pretas, the black Brazilians, they're trying to tell them to leave them alone. They just N-words. They're going to leave you single mamas. They are not going to these white women too much. I mean, sometimes they do, but they ain't putting forth the same effort. They're trying to go to the Philippines and tell that cute Filipina, tell that cute Pinay lady, them niggas ain't no good and they got tails. And do you see what I'm saying? I'm ranting, but I'm on to something, man. I talked about this before, and I don't see enough of an effort to tell these men, the Pinoy men, the Malaysian men, the Indonesian men, the Colombian men, the Thai men, the Filipino, well, I said Pinoy men. I don't see enough of an effort to tell the men who are not our enemies about what's coming down the pike and why they see so many sisters there. Do you understand? We need to get on that. I'd be stupid if I talked about this too much and lost my job because of it, because I'm not teaching enough English. I'd be a fool to do something like that. If you help out with that, I won't have to. I hope that what I said helps. I mean that from the bottom of my black heart. I'm saying this because I hope it benefits. Remember, this message is more important than the messenger like the others are, but you need to spread this. You need to start, y'all need to start telling each other. It don't matter if you passport, bro, SYS, IBMOR, passport gang. It doesn't matter. If you are a BMPT of any stripe or acronym, this is something we got to start doing. We're learning other languages. Well, what the fuck are we going to do with that? Some of you are learning Thai and you're getting good at it. You better start telling them Thai men what's coming down the pike. Some of you might be learning Tagalog, even though you don't have to. You better tell them. Thank you for listening. As always, black heart, black mind, black out. Assalamu alaikum, black heterosexual, non-select male power, because they don't like it. Black patriarchy until extinction of Judgment Day. Thank you for flying again with us here on Jet Black Airways, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us till the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender, justice, forever.